It's a 1.6 liter single cam turbo running on C16, very mildly built, tuned by LDL Speed Shop in Las Vegas. 360 to the wheels, full interior car. A long story short, B series I had one and I blew the turbo. It's supposed to be a temporary job here and it kind of took off. It's a whole set, HY35, T3 hot side. That's a JoJo Carlos front end. It's for a 92-95 Civic EG. The reason why I went with that is because they didn't make it for a Del Sol. I got pulled over on the side on the freeway. The cop was being kind of mean, and I just wanted to do something along the lines of that. And it kind of went from there. And it was supposed to be only for a weekend. Everybody at the show liked it, so it kind of stuck.
Before it came to me, it was kind of, it's kind of beat up for the most part. Most of the parts were just kind of thrown on, and his car's been a test car for who knows how many years now. Like every time it goes faster, somebody's got another part to try on, and it's like, hey, try it on Jake's car because it's the fastest car at the time. It wasn't like, photo friendly. Nobody really liked to take pictures of it and stuff. And Chacon saw me building like other nice Civics, and it's something that he wanted to do, but he never wanted to pull the trigger on it because he didn't really want to have downtime with his race car. When he ended up finally running 8 seconds last year, I was just like, hey man, let me rebuild your car or whatever. It's like, make it look good, it deserves it. So that kind of started out the whole thing. Essentially, I was like the project manager on it, so I was the one that had to make sure everything was getting taken care of and the car was, off the paint when it was supposed to be on certain days, run the Honda, get new parts, or, just making sure everything was done. And I know Jake's style, and if we're going to rebuild his race car to be show quality, everything has to be perfect on the whole car. The front end, being carbon fiber, I can't stand it when they're not painted. And his front end, just like the fitment wasn't very good. It was like falling apart, and the carbon fiber look, like the back half was red and the front half was black, and it just didn't look good anymore. And it always bothered me. Like I always gave him I always gave him crap about it all the time because it was a different color. It started out just, we were originally just going to paint the front end, and he decided he wanted to do Exo Speed front end, and I told him the only way I'd do an Exo Speed front end, the white front end, is if we molded the caps. So he's like, all right, well, let's do it. Kind of opened my mouth on that one, so he got the front end, and I ended up having to mold the caps. We can't really paint the front end and then have the rest of the car look like crap, so ended up body working and painting the rest of the car. And well, we started doing that. We're like, we're going to paint the outside of the car. You might as well do it right and pull all the windows out and pull all the trim off. And so it's kind of like the snowball effect. All the interior ended up coming out, like headliner, door panels ended up getting rewrapped. Decided to paint the cage because it was just bare metal, and we're like, we have the whole car apart. Now's the time to paint the cage if we're going to paint the cage. So he wanted me to mild shave the engine bay and make it show quality. So I ended up shaving all the posts off the firewall and welding a lot of the holes on like the shock towers and stuff. And we used a 3M seam sealer on the seam to self-leveling, so it still makes it look real smooth. Anything that's not necessary is not going to be in the engine bay. Like everything's routed to be as clean as possible. So I think kind of like, the beat up race car look is kind of like a thing in the past, and nowadays a lot more people are building like show quality race cars.
Parts for this car were pretty much impossible to get, So kind of had to use my own sense and my own style and try to figure out what I wanted to do with the vehicle. And this is what I came up with. When I got the City, we had a 9091 Civic kit that we had mocked up for the car, made out of fiberglass, and we had to cut it in half and shorten it and made it fit as perfect as possible for the vehicle to make it look like some aspects of the City Turbo. Modified the HKS Sport exhaust from the 88 through 91 Civic hatch. We mocked up a 2-piston Willwood brake kit up front. I believe, I want to say it's about 76, 78 horsepower. It is a D12A carbureted motor. Pretty fast for what it is. It gets up and goes. Back in Japan, I don't think this car was too popular as much as maybe the Civic was. This car was more of a errand getter car. You would park it and you would shop and then you would come back and go home. My plans right now is to keep it in the shop. Don't want anything to happen to it. It's hard enough to get parts for it. So if I can get some stock parts for it, I'm sure we'll do some more stuff to it. Boy, the difference between driving left-hand drive and right-hand drive, it's a real treat. I mean, you really can't explain it unless you've done it. It's a blast.
Oh my god, it's so cute.
Hi, I'm Chris Stewart.
I'm Adam Jabay.
And we run an event called the West Michigan Honda Meet at Gingerman Raceway. The thing that we found about track days, especially being a little bit younger and just getting into kind of the idea of tracking our cars, is that they were really intimidating. Track days have a tendency to be kind of scary for beginners, so we wanted to create a day that was really, really casual. You know, and really, really accessible, particularly for beginners on the track. And Honda Meet was born from that idea. Just
somehow Chris found out you can rent a racetrack.
Yeah, somehow I found that out, and we pieced it together the first year. And I remember Honda Meet 4 was the biggest thing we could ever imagine. And
got the T-shirt.
Still got the T-shirt. I mean, it was not big in terms of size, but just the idea of like tackling that type of an event.
A good portion of our instructors were beginners in Honda Meet 4. You know, 10 years ago they were our beginners. So we've got probably 30–40% of our instructors were beginners here years ago.
Honda Meet has kind of grown in that same sense. So I feel we have a really unique type of track day because it really feels like a family reunion. You come every year and the vibe is so chill and so ego-free and so helpful and such a core community. What we'd really love to do is bring Honda Meet nationwide. So the thing about the growth of this event is it was never forced. It's always grown organically, and it's just kind of evolved to the point this year that there is actually somewhat of a need to start thinking about expansion for the future. You know, this year we sold out of driver spots in about 16 hours, so even within the Midwest, I think there's a need and a desire for more events like this. So I think we're going to take it slow, kind of evaluate what's happening, but I think there's a good chance that we might see more events like this in other places in the country.